streamers are trying to ruin Verdansk. That's right. Apparently, I'm trying to ruin Verdansk, but also that means the person that did this video, the tactical Brit, he's also trying to ruin Verdansk. But then other people are also, everyone is trying to ruin Verdansk. But I actually do think that this statement is actually more true than I'm leading on in the beginning here, because I've seen a lot of dumb things. I've seen a lot of people saying dumb things as ways to improve Verdansk over what it already is, because we already saw what happened with Verdansk. We already saw the downfall, how it rose to meteoric success and then had a massive downfall. And people are just saying, do the same things that we already did. And do you know what that is? That's the definition of insanity. So let's see what Tactical Brit has to say about this, and see if we agree or disagree with him on what should happen with Verdansk.
Long for the first wave of complaints to start.
Every time we will listen to him, I say the same thing. What a voice.
Filtering in about the return to Verdansk. And honestly, these are complaints that I think Call of Duty should completely ignore, that come from a player base that, quite frankly, should just be ignored.
Ooh.
Now look, the title might be a little bit inflammatory, but streamers and top 1% players have already started talking about things like redeploy balloons not being in the game.
Yep.
Have already started complaining about the HDR being a one-shot.
So Swag was the first person that I saw that was complaining about the HDR. And I think that's just ridiculous. How long were we asking for snipers to go back to being one-shot kills after Warzone 2 was implemented? And now we're going back to like, no, clearly everyone likes the one-shot snipers. If anything, buff the other snipers so we have more options as to good snipers that we can use.
And are clearly struggling to adapt to the pacing that is a very, very realistic capture of what Warzone used to be.
Yeah.
The early days of Verdansk weren't about flying around the map dropping 30, 40, 50 kills. It was about a tense sandbox-based experience that allowed you to do wacky, funny, and crazy things, and maybe you strung together a win, but it wasn't a given. A game that...
So I think, like before we get into this, I think they should leave big map Verdansk the way that it is and make changes here and there. Like do one change a week, see what people think about it, revert it, don't revert it. And then if you really want that fast-paced gameplay, that's what Resurgence is for. And yeah, they ended up leaning too hard into that, and I think that's what happened, but
fundamentally let the bottom 1% of player challenge the top 1% of player if they did intelligent things like position themselves early. So seeing these complaints about the game feeling too slow, about there not being enough cash, not being enough plates, about Verdansk as a map feeling quiet or having too much downtime, it felt like something I needed to talk about. Because all of these complaints,
I could
and
almost
all of
have
these
told
things
you though,
that
100% that was gonna come out as once the
people are
map came out.
raising from the top 1% of the player base are things that have taken Call of Duty Warzone away. It's put it into an extreme category that has completely ruined it for the vast majority of players. And you might be wondering to yourself, hang on a minute, aren't you a streamer? And you'd be entirely correct about that. I myself have also had these complaints historically from the early days of Verdansk that pushed Warzone into a different direction. I wanted longer time to kills. I wanted a higher skill gap. I wanted them to
The longer time to kill is one I haven't decided either way yet.
Get rid of things that made the sandbox environment in favor of something that felt more competitive, simply because we didn't have ranked. And I think that's a critical mistake that should be completely avoided all over again. Because I honestly feel as though the stats and sentiment speak for itself. This is the most amount of people on my friends list I have seen play Warzone in ages, including casual friends who haven't touched the game in years.
All right, I want to actually say this at the beginning of the video. I need to make a video in and of itself about this, but I want to say this is the beginning of the video to get this out. They need events like the Welcome to Verdansk, or sorry, the Return to Verdansk event almost weekly. I think bi-weekly would be fine, but we need like intel events, we need story events, and we need discoverability and RNG based events where you have to go around the map and do specific things. I think it's evidently clear with things like the safes and what's the earn rate on the Trailblazer skin, how popular those things are. That needs to exist. It needs to, and they need to focus on that quickly, because I think that will retain players and keep players in the game. And someone said something very smart to me. I'm like, why did they buff the drop rate of this? And some people are like, I couldn't get it, I still haven't got it. But someone said something very smart. They said, I'm fine with that drop rate being incredibly low, but don't make it a limited time event. Leave the safes in there at least for a season and have it so that they're always there. It's always something you can grind for. And then you can implement other ones as well. Like every 2 weeks, every week, add a new one of these challenges and at least have it for a season. Way cooler in my opinion. But hey, that's just
And
me.
if you look around online, people are enjoying themselves. The Verdansk sandbox experience has been truly fantastic. And we're not talking about 50 kill wins and all of these crazy bombs and streaks and stuff that people are doing. We're talking about the random wacky stuff that's happened in our games. The helicopter landings, the weird vehicle plays, the quirky RPG shots, the things that made the original Verdansk special and made it a sandbox first and a BR second is really, really key. We don't want to lose that essence and we don't want to lose that feeling. Now, before I talk about some of the things like redeploy balloons and plates and all of these other things that have been brought up in conversation, I honestly just think Verdansk is fantastic. I do have some minor concerns about just a little bit of TTK tweaking, namely that the AK-74 and the AMAX are able to outshoot SMGs, but that's something that can be minorly
I've seen a
tweaked
lot of
and
people
doesn't
using
have
the
to
AK.
massively change, and I think we should avoid any and all massive changes just to see how the player base actually reacts to this default version of Verdansk. I haven't even thought about the words SBMM or skill-based matchmaking, or thought about sweaty games, or thought about movements, kills, and people zipping up and around places and how the game is frustrating. I've genuinely
So we already know some of the changes that will be coming. Like exterior zip lines are coming with season
been thinking
3
about
Reloaded.
how wacky some of the plays have been, how fun it's been, how I've lost some rounds because of something that felt a bit random, but it's taken away the frustration factor from Warzone. Yeah, you still encounter the odd sweaty player, and good God, I am definitely one of them, but you also just encounter a very mixed bag of experiences, and the time to kill and one-shot snipers mean that everybody has a fair and reasonable chance to take on anybody so long as they've taken up good positions. So let's talk about the key changes that have gone away. I mean, the first one is redeploy drones, and I think this is a massive bonus for Verdansk, and I don't ever want to see them return. Taking away these drones means that people can't just randomly leave the map and land somewhere else and drop on an entire squad, and you actually have to make methodical decisions around your rotations and use vehicles around you which are much easier to see and attract more attention. This means that teams have to be a bit more intelligent and move a little bit more quickly, and you can be punished for your mistakes in terms of positioning.
Run them
If
over.
you do decide to use a vehicle, it makes it painstakingly obvious to the entire lobby that you are roaming around the place. And
So like there's I think like little things that can change. Like when you're in vehicles, they reduced the distance that you can see them on the minimap. Same with red dots. I'm fine with the red dots, but I think you should be able to see vehicles on your minimap a little bit further away. Like just mess with that distance a little bit, because sometimes I can see them and they're close to me, but they're not on the minimap, and I'm like, it's a ghost vehicle.
I think that's a huge bonus. The next major change was airstrikes, and I've seen some people complain about there not being an indicator, and I will be perfectly honest with you, I thought this was a terrible change when they announced it. But you know what? I was damn well wrong. Not having an airstrike indicator and positional indicator means that the fear factor is back for airstrikes, and they actually make teams move and make squads get mobile again compared to what they have done before.
I disagree with that one. Sorry, I disagree with that one. I get the fear factor, but you should at least get an indicator. Like, not necessarily like the direction of it, but like having one.
The bonus of this being is that back in the day, people wanted this because airstrikes hit people through buildings, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore unless it lands in a window or in a clear opening. The next major change is the time to kill. Now, I've already expressed a bit of sentiment that the AMAX and the AK need a little bit of tweaking. In my experience and in my view, SMGs should always outgun assault rifles, and there should never really be an assault rifle that outguns.
So one thing I think they could do is just have wider spread changes to the meta. So leave the time to kill the same, but switch the weapons that are good, right? Or leave them relatively the same and just straight up remove weapons. Now they'll never do that because of blueprints and stuff. But imagine just like, okay, season 4, there's only 15 weapons you can use. 15 weapons in plunder, in everything else. There's more. And then guess what? Season 4 Reloaded, 15 different weapons. That way each season actually feels, I don't know. I always thought that was a good thing they could do. Maybe I'm dumb.
An SMG,
Might
because
be
it
dumb.
kind of just lopsides the entire balance system. So
Hit him.
it only needs a little bit of a change. Nothing too crazy, but just a minor tweak. Now, I am definitely somebody that prefers a longer time to kill. But the experience in Verdansk right now means that a bunch of weapons feel very viable, and it feels like the meta is wide open, which is great to see. And it honestly just feels fairly balanced. It feels like people actually have an opportunity to get kills in places that they previously couldn't have, and it puts more emphasis on positioning. Now, granted, it's definitely something I've had to adjust to, and I'm having to play in hard cover a lot more than I have previously in the past, but I think we have a sweet spot here where you can mess around with lots of different weapons, lots of different varieties of things, and it just works. And if they keep refreshing that and adding different weapons and changing things and buffing things and let a few more into the fray again, then I honestly feel like we'll be in a good spot. Now, there is the opportunity if Call of Duty want to extend the time to kill for ranked play that they can do that and create a more competitive environment.
I just saw something outside of this video. I just saw something about that today. I think it was from JGod. And it was essentially saying that is like, leave the casual mode alone, or I guess it's not technically the standard mode alone. And if you want to see those sweaty changes, do it to ranked. But then we're back into the same thing where ranked is a different game mode than normal games, which is the way that it is with multiplayer. And I really don't like that. And we've talked about that before. But that's probably what's going to end up happening.
But by reducing the skill gap in the current environment that they have right now, it feels as though casual players have more of a chance, and it brings so much more of them back to the game and gives them less headaches and less emphasis on the sweats that they've experienced before. One of the other bonuses about all of this as well is that although movement did get nerfed in the lead up to this from the Black Ops 6 Omni movement system, there still is more movement in this iteration of Warzone than there probably ever.
Did he just call it the zombies movement system? Is there something that I don't know? Because I'm pretty sure it's the same as multiplayer, or was.
Has been before, and even though there is a fast time to kill, there are plenty of escape avenues available. Having a lethal TTK also means that people are dying more frequently. It's forcing more players to use buy stations because we don't have resurgence mechanics, which we will touch on in a little bit. And it means people are moving around more. There's more risk-reward going on. There's more tension in the game that, in my view, makes everything feel more rewarding. Speaking of resurgence mechanics, another thing that obviously has been stripped back from the game, I honestly feel this is a massive positive change because it means that BR is BR and BR is brutal, BR is taxing, but most importantly, Battle Royale is rewarding. It means that you do string together a win. It's a great feeling. And it does mean that when you do manage to get those, clutch moments and crazy sandbox environment moments, that they feel all the more valuable as opposed to having 75 gulag tokens and a flare every single time you make a mistake. Deaths feel more frustrating.
So let's take right now as an example. So Brit and Westy are both dead. So they got 2 people left alive. They do not have enough money for a buyback, but they are close. They also had no armor. So they were in a gunfight, and normally you just stay in that gunfight, keep shooting, keep re-armoring, and maybe you kill one of them and then you get the money for them. But instead, they back off because they have no armor, get some armor, and now they can make a decision. Do we go for $300 to try to buy back one of our teammates?
Frustrating, but wins and kills also feel far more rewarding than they have in the past. And the same also applies to the plate economy and the cash economy. Now, yes, I do think there could be a handful more plates, but actually having to think about what you're looting and what you're bringing into endgame and how you could buy a plate box or pick up some useful resources to benefit yourself in these final circles.
So they got the money now.
Feels like a huge positive, and again is a complaint that I think we're seeing online from the top 1% of players that should just be completely ignored.
Yep.
And everything that I've mentioned so far, the more grounded movement.
By the way, it goes the other way. It goes the other way as well. Like if you're not going to take the top 1% of players' opinions. You're also probably not going to take the bottom 1% of players. It's like that middle area, which is the majority of players, which you actually need to pay attention to. Like imagine getting someone that plays 1 game of Warzone a month and they're horrible. They maybe get a kill, probably don't. They might take them 5 games to get a kill. Why would you like listen to them on time to kill? Like they're not the ones that understand it. Same with the people who spend all of their time doing it. Like that's not representative of anything.
Redeploy balloons, the lack of resurgence mechanics. were all things that took Warzone to an extreme that wasn't compatible with
I
everybody
saw
who
that guy.
enjoyed
Did
it
you
in
see
the
that
first
guy? I
place.
saw that guy.
People have been making comparisons that the return to Verdansk has felt like Modern Warfare 2's update. But that's not fair, and it's not a true comparison, and I think it's just a complaint that random content creators, streamers, and top 1% players who want some clicks are essentially saying. The reality is that this is the purest version of Warzone that most people enjoyed, the vast majority of people enjoyed. And whilst this may feel like an extreme compared to Urzikstan, the reality is Urzikstan was extreme. We're talking about a movement system far away from the original Warzone, a time to kill outlandishly different to the original Warzone, an economy, contract, and redeploy system that was massively different, and a map flow that quite frankly made no sense for Battle Royale. Battle Royale was a shell and shadow of itself in Urzikstan, and we should stay as far away from that as humanly possible. And all of these players leveraging these
They're not going
complaints,
to go for the
in my view,
buyback, are they?
should be 1000% ignored. Now, I do want to say, and I do want to specify, that this isn't a blanket statement against all
Oh,
streamers
boy.
considering the title, but it has come from some of them, and it has come from some of the comp players as well. But a lot of us, myself included, and a lot of other content creators also acknowledge what has been brought back, the excellence of the sandbox, the excellence of the casual experience, and the fact that we're just not caring about how sweaty Warzone is and just having fun again. And this definitely isn't a please pick me style video, because, well, quite frankly, there are much better content creators out there. Call of Duty has already said that they're willing to add a few more plates to the economy, but I think that's where the change is.
I think, like, just keep it simple. Like, you can make changes, just test them. Like, you be okay with being wrong. Be okay with reverting them once you make the changes, because the game is going to need to change. It's going to need to adapt. You're going to need to change the map. You're going to need to put in new events. And if it's a crap change, get the hell rid of it. Fair enough. Now, plate economy, I think it's simple. Make it so when you kill someone, they drop 3 plates, no matter what. That way, you get in a gunfight, you can be back in the game. Now, that might ruin it a little bit. Maybe we drop that down so it's 2. But I don't know.
Stop for now. The worst thing I can picture, and the worst thing that I can imagine, is Call of Duty starts re-catering to these movement sweats, the top 1%, the comp players, and the streaming players who want these more competitive environments, because it takes away the fun of Verdansk, and it takes away the fun of Warzone in the process.
Does he
Warzone
have a
right now
gas
is
mask?
a
No, he
fork
doesn't.
in the road, and it needs to separate the unranked experience, which is supposed to be sandbox first and competition and BR second, with
Oh, he
the
is gonna
ranked
go for it.
experience, which is supposed to be competition and battle royale first and sandbox second, and split them as far away from each other as humanly possible. Warzone right now is the most fun I think it's been since it originally released, and I think it's the most fun for the majority of people. We don't need to force
The
more
majority of
balanced
people, that's a good
environments
point.
on players and try and give these, huge competitive balancing passes to the game, because there's a space for that now, and it's ranked play. Ranked play is a different world, a different environment, a different set of rules, and if we don't want one-shot snipers and we don't want certain X, Y, Z, ABC pieces of equipment, and maybe if we want more health, then use the ranked play environment to fuel that. Don't subject the entire player base to what a slither of the player base.
So I agree with this, but at the same time, I don't know if I want ranked play to be a different game. I don't know if that's good. I think when you see the top level players playing the same game that you are playing, that's what promotes people to try to be better. So I don't know, maybe I'm alone on that one.
Base wants, even though they are core and most engaged. Because
I think at some point though, you just need to tell the sweats to screw off and play the game that you're given. Like, I feel like half of this is just entitled little brats who get everything that they want, being like, this isn't the game that I want. And then, I don't know, maybe that's just
because
me.
you will keep the majority of players most engaged if we just keep Warzone
Like, if you
and
don't like it, go play a different game.
Verdansk at its purest.
That's what I
and
do
most
when I
fun
don't like
self,
it.
which is a sandbox environment where wacky shit goes down. And in fact, I would honestly take this a step further, and I would say to Call of Duty, now is the time to double, triple, and quadruple down on the fun, and avoid making sweeping changes. I know Ascenders are returning to certain buildings, and I'm really glad that's happening, because honestly, I just felt like the Ascenders were a nice upgrade. We're not talking about, a sweeping
And
change.
guess what? if they add it and it sucks, please remove it.
Change to how Verdansk is going to play. We're just saying, hey, you know what? If you want to get on Stadium Roof, there's a way to do that. And I honestly felt like most people enjoyed the ascending mechanics, as long as it doesn't massively corrupt the gameplay and movement loop, and also people's general mobility. But right now is the biggest opportunity for Call of Duty to say, do you know what? Time to start rolling out these limited time events and these LTMs that inject more fun.
LTMs, events, 100%.
More wackiness and less balance into the game. Bring back Juggernaut Royale.
No,
bring
don't
back
bring
Armored
that.
Royale.
Don't bring that back. The Juggernaut. I didn't like that one.
Bring out buyback solos again.
Yes.
Mess around with the game in as many fun and creative ways as possible.
Events, intel, build out the world.
In the Verdansk landscape in specific LTMs. Offer people the core experience. Don't take away, you know, solos, duos, trios, and quads in Verdansk. But just say to them, hey, do you know what? Here's totally normal Battle Royale where explosions make you float into the sky. Why? Because it's just a bit of fun. And whilst most people won't love it, and there will be some people who avoid it entirely, the people that will enjoy it are going to have a great time with it. And LTMs right now is something that has been missing from Warzone for the past year or two.
Agreed.
And everything is focused on these weird resurgency power-up abilities that feel very samey and feel very boring, when in reality, people just want a different alternative objective, something that feels crazy, something that feels wacky. How about a version of Warzone where there's a brief king of the hill, and if you don't show up in this small circle, you die instantly, or something explodes, or there's some airstrikes. Whatever it so happens to be, just mess around with it. Have some fun with it, because that's what Warzone's supposed to be about right now. I'm really interested to hear you guys' thoughts and feelings as probably more engaged players, seeing as you're watching this video, but also some of you guys who are a bit more casual and perhaps haven't picked up Warzone in a while. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Have you been having fun? Has it felt sweaty? Is it a little bit different? I just want to see what you guys are thinking and feeling.
Am I the only one that finds it weird that when you shoot the Kar 98, it doesn't have a tracer on it? Like, you can't see where the bullet goes? I was watching like my gameplay back, and then I noticed it, and maybe this is just me. I don't know.
How much you're resonating with the entire Verdansk experience, and if it's something that you've enjoyed so far. Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you again in the next one.
Pretty much agree with every individual thing that he said. I think in the long run, the game's gonna need changes. Like, I think that's not an okay thing to say. I don't think that you should say, oh, we need to leave it the way that it is. No, make changes, and if they're bad changes, remove them. Add the Ascenders. If people don't like the Ascenders, get the hell rid of them. Redeploy balloons I just don't want. Add in different vehicles. If the vehicle ruins the game, get rid of it. You could do so much. Change POIs. There's so many POIs that I think they need to, like, they're going to do like the classic stuff, like opening up stadium, opening up the train stations, things like that. But guess what? If they open up the trains and the trains suck, get rid of the trains. I don't know. That's what I think they need to do. And then add new stuff, add new locations, ones that we haven't seen before. But yeah, stop listening to, oh, we need to change this time to kill. We need to do that. Clearly, player count goes up or stays up. You're doing something right. Listen to that. Listen to the average player, and don't like just cater to these people who just whine and complain about every single thing. And I know I've whined and complained about things, but I can be wrong too. And that's okay. People need to learn to be wrong. It's a good thing.